along to the Metaverse Insider's interview series. My name is Josh, and in today's episode we speak to the respective VPs Laurie Hufford from Bentley Systems and Richard Kerris from Nvidia. In this interview, we address the role of these two tech giants in the industrial metaverse. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, guys. It's incredibly exciting to have you both on the call to discuss the developments in the industrial metaverse. To start off, can you please introduce to us the key concepts of what digital twins are, to help explain to our audience how this all links to the industrial metaverse?
Okay, so it's a great question. It's a pleasure meeting you. I'm really excited about this. So, we don't think the metaverse for infrastructure has arrived yet, but we can see its outlines. And so, if we think about the type of characteristics that digital twins for infrastructure management have, they've got to be immersive, a 3D geospatial user experience. They've got to be real time with real time interaction and real time data. Engineering grade, right? That's another characteristic. No loss of data fidelity. They've got to be always on. Data's got to be persisted, and changes have got to be tracked. They've got to be interoperable. So the content can't be trapped in just one platform. The concept of openness and interoperability is just absolutely huge. And of course, they have to be collaborative, empowering multi-user interaction. So, to sum it all up, a digital twin for infrastructure, it's a digital representation of the physical world, continuously updated with information from the physical world, containing rich engineering BIM data, ability to track and visualize changes. And it's got to open up data that's contained in engineering files to be able to align the data for infrastructure.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I can just echo that. I can tell you a little bit about what the reason why we developed Omniverse, which is the platform that is helping to enable these types of digital twins, is because the challenges, like Laurie said, is a lot of companies have their own data and they have their own infrastructure, their own ecosystem. And it's typically not been, something that they've pursued to interact with other products in their workflows. And the companies that are using those are usually the ones that are stuck doing that. Omniverse is designed to kind of unify all of those things by bringing them all together in a platform where they can, work together. They can collaborate across applications and across locations even. And so we kind of think of it in the analogy of the operating system for the metaverse that enables all of these things to kind of take place.
Perfect. And so from the perspective of the partnerships between Nvidia and Bentley Systems, how is that partnership increasing their sophistication and development of digital twins? How's it going to kind of act as a case study for the future of how the industrial metaverse is going to develop?
Yeah, so I can start with it. For us, the integration of NVIDIA Omniverse and Bentley iTwin enables that real-time immersive 3D, 4D experiences to enhance visualization and simulation of infrastructure digital twins powered by iTwin. So the combined capabilities are really delivering a whole new set of possibilities and incredible results for some of the world's largest and complex infrastructure projects.
And we've had the wonderful pleasure of learning so much from Bentley. We're building this platform, but we're not out to replace the tools that are already being used in these things. They're much more sophisticated, much more dedicated, years of experience. But what we do set out to do is to make sure that there is a cohesive platform that any of these tools can connect to and allow for workflows across. And that's something that we've really gained so much from our relationship with Bentley because they're the leaders in this space. And so we've been able to understand some of the nuances and the things that we have to pay a special attention to as we build this platform and make it a broader availability.
Okay, and I feel what's really interesting, you guys probably saw the news today. Siemens and MIT released that report today that projected the industrial metaverse to be worth $100 billion by 2030, which is quite a crazy number. Do you think that's realistic? And what do you think of that ballpark figure?
I'll kick off. No, I don't think it's unrealistic at all. If we look at the impact that the web has had on businesses from the early days when the dot-com stuff was happening and people said, this is going to be huge, it's going to change everything. And there were a lot of like, I don't know. And so now they're the biggest companies in the world are working, are completely web-based. With the Metaverse being the evolution of the web into a 3D centric internet, so you can go from virtual worlds to virtual worlds, is setting that foundation. And the impact is, I think it's going to surprise us all, because you're going to see digital twins across all different types of use cases. We see it today in some of the consumer aspects, whether you're buying furniture or buying clothing, you can do different things with it in that relatively simplistic view. But then you start moving up in complexity to buying a car or to managing a factory or a warehouse. We're seeing digital twins of city blocks and how antennas are being laid out. We're seeing digital twins of land masses for understanding wildfires and things. And eventually we'll have a digital twin of the globe to understand how climate change affects all different parts of where we live. And so you see, that's from a small all the way to a very large. All the industries in between, we're going to see digital twins has become as essential to their work as having a website is today.
And from an educational standpoint, I think one of the key things that was brought up in the webinar that they did earlier today was that there's kind of an educational gap when you're educating leaders on how to use digital twins. And if they're funding these projects, how do you make sure that they're educated on your applications and use of digital twinning to ensure that they actually get the most efficient use case out of it? That must be quite a challenging task.
Yeah, so I think absolutely. So with any technology, adoption is really key. If you think about people, process, and technology. So, for infrastructure, there's a lot of existing workflows that have been put in place for good reasons. So, for example, ISO 19650 workflows. And the key to this adoption of this technology is incorporating these data-centric, these metaverse, these digital twin workflows, augmenting traditional file-based workflows with these digital twin, these data-centric workflows, augmenting them into their existing workflows, so that it's not a revolutionary change. We can disrupt with disruptive technology, but we're not disrupting the workflows. We're leveraging the work that people are already doing and incorporating this into along the way. I think that's absolutely critical.
Absolutely. I mean, it's part of the guiding principle of our platform is we extend and enhance. We don't replace what's currently being done. We bring new capabilities. We tend to refer to them as kind of the superpowers. So you get AI capabilities, real-time photorealistic rendering. You have the ability to learn from previous and do projections in time going forward and look at different scenarios. All of those things to the work you're already doing, right? So I think that's one of the ways in educating people. It's expanding their horizons. It's not telling them to have to learn a completely new thing.
Yeah, I think for example, LumenRT for Nvidia Omniverse is a great example of that. So it is allowing what used to take computer graphics professionals, a long period of time and a lot of effort would have to be put into creating these immersive experiences. With the LumenRT for Nvidia Omniverse, we can leverage the benefits of infrastructure digital twins with Bentley iTwin and Nvidia Omniverse to bring the the superpower AI enhanced visualization capabilities together in an off-the-shelf product that people can get started with just so quickly.
Right.
I think that's quite amazing because I feel like a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, when the whole concept of digital twins obviously existed, but the applications and products building it weren't quite there yet. So, what you guys have been building and are building to enable those business leaders who really want to build digital twins to help streamline the manufacturing process is absolutely critical. And when we found that in trying to educate through our publication, people asked us all the time how to apply these technologies. And actually, we're not the ones to answer that. Companies like yourself, Bentley Systems and Nvidia, are the ones to walk through the process itself. So in terms of the microeconomics impacting the digital twins, how do you think it's going to shape the global economic landscape over the next 5 years? Do you think it's going to be a monumental impact on infrastructure development in the industry?
I'll start on that. I think the impact is going to be tremendous because it brings a higher level of efficiency to things that are being done, which then improves productivity, which at the end saves money. It also allows for things like a higher degree of safety for employees, whether they're in warehouses or factories, by understanding what's going to be done virtually before the commitment to the physical world. So there's tremendous benefits. I mean, we've seen companies stating that they're seeing, 10, 30% improvement in their costs, reduction in their costs by using digital twins and these processes. So I think it's going to just become as impactful, if not a lot more impactful, actually, than the web has changed and transformed businesses on how they do things today.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. So, it's really it's almost a necessity today. So designing, constructing, and operating the world's infrastructure is just more complex than it used to be. So from workforce challenges, there's a recent study from AEC Advisors indicating that, the war for talent is one of the number one things keeping up CFOs of engineering firms at night, to increasing demands for infrastructure, faster delivery, more sustainable infrastructure. And addressing this complexity, it requires a more holistic view of infrastructure data. It requires ensuring that there's mobility of data across the infrastructure lifecycle, being able to visualize and analyze and simulate across the entire design. And that's why we need to break the data out of the files, out of the engineering files where it exists today, and synchronize these infrastructure digital twins to be able to solve these problems.
So, I know there are a lot of automobile companies and other businesses across different industries that are interested in digital twins. Are there, would you say, any in particular that gets you guys really excited about how digital twins will transform individual industries? And which of these industries would you say you most excited about?
Um,
Go ahead.
okay, I was going to say, well, one of the areas that we've been seeing is the automotive industry, because there's so many aspects to that, from the conceptual design all the way through to the autonomous driving and the training that goes on there. And the transformation with digital twins is having a profound impact across most all the automobile manufacturers today already, even though we're not yet realizing the true impact of the metaverse with a seamless interconnectivity between virtual worlds. There's companies like BMW who's opening up a virtual factory 2 years before the physical one, because in the virtual factory, they can do things like training their robots, lay out the machinery, understand the parts and how they come in and go through the system. All of these things that are very complex and traditionally would only be done once the factory was built. So they're already this year going to have employees working in a factory that won't be realized physically until 2025. That's pretty profound.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Bentley is, as the infrastructure engineering software company, we're focused on the world's infrastructure, and infrastructure digital twins. They improve that information mobility across the traditional boundaries, and that's going to help accelerate, among other things, modular design, design for constructability, performance-based design. So take, for example, digital components. By maintaining a library of digital components and using them in the design process and generating infrastructure digital twins with these digital components, the digital twin is then put into operation. It's continually updated with IoT sensor information where learnings can then be attained. And the catalog of components can then be updated with that aggregated learning to inform future designs and other infrastructure assets, design of other infrastructure assets, or updates to the design of that particular piece of infrastructure. So there's whether it's across design, construction, or operation, the use of digital twins has just tremendous benefits.
So, how do you perceive the concept of the metaverse and its different manifestations, such as the industrial metaverse, enterprise metaverse, and social metaverse? As leaders in this field, how do you envision these various aspects connecting with each other? Because it seems at the moment the industrial metaverse is gaining momentum, which I find quite exciting. Do you believe that the industrial metaverse will contribute to the mainstream acceptance of the metaverse concept as a whole? Do you reckon it will lead to a more widespread adoption? Or do you think other elements of the metaverse, like social metaverse, will play a larger role in this regard?
Well, I'll kick off, because I've been reading recently a number of articles about the social metaverse. Is like, oh, it's kind of come and it's like kind of mellowed out now and things like that. And it reminds me of those early days of the internet, for those of us that are old enough to remember, when everything was a dot-com boom and everything was happening, and all of a sudden you had to have special browsers, you had to have special, things, extensions, et cetera. And it caused a disruption and a slowdown of the adoption of that. Whereas businesses were moving towards having it infrastructure within their facility so that they could communicate and do things across. I do think the industrial metaverse has real world practical impacts that are happening now. As far as the social metaverse of being able to interact and teleport into virtual worlds, there needs to be a reason to do that versus it just being cool. Like, I don't think people will all have headsets on and be floating avatars and all of that kind of stuff. But I do think people will naturally progress to experiencing 3D environments or 3D objects as seamlessly as they do 2D today on the internet. So if it's a product you're looking at, being able to just grab it, move it around, see it, using AR, see it in your home, et cetera. Or if it's multiple people wanting to get together at a distant location that they're thinking of traveling to and have a virtual environment in that. I do think those things will come. I just think as with any new technologies that come to market, when people see the fanfare of oh wow, everything's going to be floating avatars and we're all going to be in this virtual world and stuff, that kind of swings the pendulum away a bit too far for people to understand really what it means. And so it'll come back. And the idea of interaction, we live in a 3D world. Interacting and communicating with 3D is a natural extension of that. And that's where I do think that while we're leading with the industrial metaverse, eventually it'll play out across all.
And I think that, some of the technology advancements that have taken place, it's been really great to work with Nvidia on bringing some of the technology advancements that started in entertainment and gaming, some of the AI enhanced visualizations, being able to bring that into infrastructure and bring those technological advancements in. Now, when you're talking about the melding of the metaverses, there is in industrial applications and certainly in infrastructure, there is a need for structure and governance of data, right? I talked about, specific workflows like ISO 19650 and that sort of thing for, very important reasons, regulatory and that sort of thing. There is a need to govern and structure the data. So, do I think that there will be a melding of them? The structure and governance is really needed, and so probably not. But I think the leveraging the technology advancements in each of the different categories and bringing the best to bear to solve problems, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. And I was also interested in the regulations surrounding the industrial metaverse and its future. How do governments collaborate with companies like yours to ensure the protection of people's data and the establishment of secure digital twins within the infrastructure of the industrial metaverse? It must be a question that your team consistently contemplates. It's like how to effectively collaborate with partners, government entities, and other organizations to address these concerns. Has this process been smooth so far? Or are governments and officials still catching up fully to comprehend the current position of major players like yourself?
I think first and foremost, it's working with the companies that are currently doing these workflows and the customers that are utilizing those workflows. You got to get that correct, and we haven't had much interaction at this point of rules and regulations around that, because I think it's still being built and designed and stuff. And the companies that are involved in it are the ones that are going to do that in much the same way the early days of the internet progressed. So we're focused on the content and the connectivity first.
Yeah, and at Bentley we do serve highly regulated industries, and we ensure that all of our products meet the necessary regulations and standards. It's a natural part of doing business.
Mhm. Well, that's a wrap for our conversation with Laurie Hufford from Bentley Systems and Richard Kerris from Nvidia. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter for everything Metaverse, and visit metaverseinsider.tech for all our content. Thank you for joining us, and until next time.